I had some questions I prepared, and but Bob answered them all in his talk, pretty much. So, but I'll ask a
There's
few.
no time left.
Yeah. We'll just go eat. Any notable? You mentioned your dad had a workshop.
Yes.
Right? And other things like what kind of workshop was it? What did you guys do?
It was in the basement. It had all the basic grinders, drills, basic automotive tools, and all known electronic and old telephones and wires and it was clearly what he had the most fun doing. We had I suppose early on, a big electric train, and we built all kinds of gadgets for the electric train. And it was very nice to have this big basement area, which most houses don't have anymore today, at least, which had no other use. It was too cold to live in down there, or too hot in the summer.
And how about teachers? Any influential teachers at all when you were a kid?
I went to public elementary school, and I can remember in giving a paper in elementary. These were really good schools. They're in Detroit. In this school, I gave a paper in the 8th grade on Ohm's law, which my father was very fond of grinding into me. And the teacher was blown away. Everybody was blown away. V equals IR. They just couldn't believe that this was how things were. So, and that was such a rewarding experience that anybody else cared. That probably was very influential. That was, what was it, 3rd grade or 4th grade, Ohm's law, yeah. I had, the high school teachers were wonderful. My math teachers all had PhDs in public high schools, and physics, same with physics. But I won't go into the. Yeah, well, that's checked. The physics, high school physics instructor paired all the boys off with the likely girls, and he had everybody working at night in the library with their lab partner. That was a very important. We spent every night in the library.
So I was going to ask you, what do you think the most important or interesting projects you worked on? But you've answered that pretty much in your talk. But how about the ones you didn't work on? Were there ones that you in retrospect, you wish you had sort of had more time or wished you had worked on?
I'm glad you asked me that question. If you've seen the bulletin board near my office up on the 3rd floor of Seaver, the one by the back elevator, you'll see it was 8 years ago, I offered a prize, which is still sitting there. It's of $1,500 to the first person who could show that the dark matter couldn't simply be protons. If it were protons, there wouldn't be enough electrons around to bind with them, because once there's enough proton with an electron, it's easy to see, but a bare proton is hard to see. And I keep shipping everywhere I go. I've been selling this, I send it, and no one has ever given me a satisfactory answer. And the astronomers, when I meet them, they say, why don't you work on that problem? This problem is equivalent. You might get, or somebody get the $1,500. Oh, I raised it from 1,000 about 8 years because of inflation, and I had a lecture on inflation, and I better raise it again because I'm not getting. But basically, it's also the same question is how would we measure the electric charge on the universe, or the average electric charge density, and what should it be, or what is it? clearly if the dark matter is protons, then there's an average charge density. And I'm happy that Einstein's equations have a beautiful conservation of charge law that fits into general relativity, and so are all the quantum equations have conservation of charge law. So whatever was around at the Big Bang would still be around. People worry, well, why are there more particles than antiparticles? All the physics is completely symmetrical. Why? It's the same kind of question. Why shouldn't there be more plus particles than minus particles? And if I had time, I'm getting time. I started a project again last summer to see if I could learn enough to figure out what the charge of the universe was. That's a good prize. I challenge, and it's worth cash, right? I give a cash award. So I'm really hoping somebody will try and win my $1,500 and get me back on track.
So who would judge if the answer was right?
He does.
I judge.
But
He's also the guy with the check.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I have a lot of consultants to help with that. I've had submissions, and it was clear that they were happy with my rebuttals. I didn't say that it had to show. I said the prize is for showing that it's unlikely that they're protons. I didn't say it had to be, or other positively charged nuclei. If they're all helium nuclei, that's fine too. I mean, it's just something that makes a net charge. It is odd that it just would be, it looked like it. The plasma frequency, if there were enough protons, well, we know what the total matter, the dark matter is. That's from looking at the expansion rate of the universe changing and from supernova and stuff. Everybody's convinced themselves that they know what that 80% of the universe the matter is dark and invisible, and they don't know what it is. And the guy who finds out what it is will probably become famous.
He's going to get at least $1,500.
Yeah, he'd be rich on top of it.
Exactly.
But it's so it's a real problem, and I don't see how the cosmologists can keep going on talking about what happened at the gravity waves at the Big Bang when they don't even know the equations or if there was charge or. It's so speculative. The cosmologists seem to be completely, they have their own rules of what ought to be and what not ought to be, and they're not interested in, I've tried to interest every time somebody gives a talk on dark matter at the physics department, I try to get them interested, but I have not succeeded.
So, if you were starting out today, or advice for a young scientist starting out today, what do you think would be good projects to work on? What's interesting to you now?
Well, I tell the physics it's a very exciting time because there are two great laws, Einstein's gravity law and the so-called standard model, which has produced the Higgs boson at last, and all the empty spots are filled and the standard model is complete, and of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics can actually be shown to contradict Einstein's gravity. They can't both be right, and it's very exciting to live. There is no equation in physics that you can write today which you know is right, and I think that won't last long, and it's a very exciting time to be born into. So I would go into something which might help along those. I mean, it's in the disagreement, if you measured between, for instance, in quantum mechanics, the vacuum is full of bubbles and stuff. You can't put them, but Einstein doesn't allow you to have that vacuum in gravity. And so if you calculate what the energy density of it would be in the universe if there was nothing, according to quantum mechanics, we were all in the ground state, it would be off by 1 followed by 120, 10 to the power 120 zeros is the difference between gravity, what gravity predicts, and the quantum mechanics predicts, and that's a big error with 10 to 120. We're really in trouble. I mean, it's really fun.
Well, let me just say that, you mentioned luck when you were a student and how important luck was. And I would like to just put my own 2 cents in that luck does play a big part in someone's career. I mean, I came here as a postdoc for Bob a long time ago, and that was luck. And it was fortuitous. Someone in my family knew somebody in your family and said, yeah, if you're going to be down in LA visiting your girlfriend, go check out this guy.
Oh, he was the hottest candidate in the whole United States that year. Come on.
And of course, when you go to Los Angeles from somewhere else, you don't want to stay there because it's a horrible place. Everyone knows it's smog, and So I said I would only stay here for maybe a year. That was almost 40 years ago. But the other part of luck was, for me, was working with Bob, because we were trying to do 4-wave mixing, and we were doing it in a conventional way with some other postdocs. We're using sodium vapor. We made a little sodium cell where we could put light beams through it. And Bob just walked in the lab one day and said, here, try this. And he handed us a piece of photorefractive barium titanate that he'd gotten from his buddies at Hughes. None of us even knew what it was, all right? And he just handed it to us and says, see what you get. And
well, I had sent Don Hyman to, the only place that had it was somewhere, it was at MIT, somebody had some in their drawer, and it had a lot of interesting stuff. And so I paid for him to go to MIT and bring home
a little piece of it, and that was the beginning of a big field for us and a lot of accomplishment.
That was good. Yeah, it came, and it was very twinned, and when we finally got it, it was useless. You could look at the thing, it was just full of these planes, and put it in the desk, and the next morning it was completely clear, and it never twinned or did anything again. I remember.
Anyway,
that's luck.
My point is, there's a lot of luck, but there's a lot of things that look like luck that really aren't. And knowing this guy falls in the second category, so that's all.
So did Sumner have something to do with sending you down here?
No, actually, it was just chance. I was going to go to a different place on the East Coast, and someone said, look at, while you're in LA, just knock on his door. That was it. All right, let's eat, huh?
Great, thanks so much. So if people have any further questions,